Hey everybody, it's Alex from Heavy New York. We are back at the Spine Farm Records headquarters in this awesome awesome conference room. But we are here with the Temperance Movement from Scotland. Thank you guys for your time.
How you doing?
Yeah, hi there.
It's great to have you guys here. It's fair to say you've had a very busy 2018 with the release of A Deeper Cut. You're on a kick-ass tour with Deep Purple and Judas Priest. How was the making of A Deeper Cut? We'll start with that.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was a while back for us because it came out in the UK and the rest of the world slightly earlier than here. It was great. Well, I think we definitely think it's the best record we've made, and we had the most fun making it, and we really loved the studio we work in. Kind of just sounds like us.
Definitely. Did you have like a preconceived idea on what you wanted the Deeper Cut to have? Like, was there a concept that you had, or was there a certain sound you were going for, or did everything happen like organically and you kind of improvise with the make?
No, I mean, I don't think anybody knew what it was going to sound like. I think that we were kind of aware that there was a few, there was, this is a good song, that's a good song, and that's a good song together with this and that. That'll make a good album. We didn't really sort of have any concept for it. It does sound different from the first two records that we made, and I think it's a record that I think it means a lot more to us than the first two records did. They were made under different circumstances, and they were kind of fresh and everything. And first album, we just did whatever we had, everything that we had, that first album thing, and bang. And the second record we were doing it under pressure, under duress. We took it up a little bit heavier, and there was a few changes in the group. A couple of guys left by the time that we did Deeper Cut, so the whole thing was different. But we still made a record.
Yeah.
And I think it sounds great.
It does. What I was really curious about with this record is I thought it was very consistent. It had a great flow throughout it. I really can't picture like fans of the record being like, I like this song but not that one. So with the making of each song, did like each song get easier, or did each song have like a new approach?
Well, they kind of the songs, and especially the initial idea of the songs, they come about in different ways at different times. So for me at least, they're not really so connected to each other until they end up on a record. And then there was some bits which we decided not to put on, maybe because they didn't sit alongside the other stuff as well. So it maybe that happens in the editing process once you've written and recorded the stuff, rather than while you're writing it. You're not kind of thinking, does this sit with the other stuff so much.
You ever worried that the stuff that you took out of the record is going to be on like a B-side record and be the biggest hit you guys ever had?
I think you got to, if it's not on it, if you make the decision, if something's not on it, then it should never have been on it. I think maybe with Deeper Cut more so than the other records that we made, we achieved something we achieved more diversity, because it was always important to sound a little bit like the Faces here, sound like the Black Crowes here, sound like Little Feat here, sound like Ryan Adams, sound like Elton John. I always wanted to sound like Elton John. We managed to do that with Deeper Cut when we did Backwater Zoo, and because the Temperance Movement should be a band that celebrates rock and roll. All Leon Russell, Delaney Bonnie, Joe Cocker, Rod Stewart, Tina Turner, Ray Charles. It's and there's elements of modern music. Is more we because we grew up with Nirvana and all of that, and we grew up with a lot of music from our country coming out, like Oasis and all of that. But the music that's in our hearts, the best music's ever, is a little bit, before we were born, and that's what we like to play together. And on our first two records, we managed to get a little bit of that, but Deeper Cut has a lot of diversity, because it's like we love Ryan Adams, for example, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
We love Heartbreaker, we love Ray LaMontagne, and we like that beauty and that melody and that heartbreak, and we can bring a little bit of that, and we did that on Deeper Cut, with the piano tune on Deeper Cut.
Yeah.
As well as that we have Built In Forgetter is just Black Crows.
Yeah.
It's just It's just because we love the Black Crows. I do anyway. Nick hates them, but I love them, and that's how come we got together.
Yeah.
But,
well, what I really found interesting with the record is that there's some bands that are maybe a little more guitar driven or vocal driven, but it seems like everything with this, especially with this particular record, really counts. And if you were to take one thing out, you could definitely tell something's missing. Is there ever something in the songwriting process that comes first?
For specific songs, yeah. I mean, generally, most of the songs will come about one or two ways. Phil will write a song and send it and say, here's a song. Which he might play, either do with piano or guitar. And then some other stuff, generally the other thing that happens is I'll kind of write a guitar riff and a few sections, and I'll send it to Phil, and Phil will kind of give me some feedback, and then we'll get together at some point and we'll kind of arrange it and turn it into a song.
Okay.
So sometimes it kind of leads with a guitar idea for me, and sometimes it's more written more like a sort of singer-songwriter place, and then we kind of develop it into a Temperance Movement song.
Again, I think that's what's great about the temp, because it has a lot of different things going for it. There's because you can have all these songs together and they do sound quite different because they've been written in different ways with different people, and I think that's what can give you real diversity, because then you can't pin it down. It's not always the same formula. It's got some colour to it.
It keeps the songwriting process interesting for sure.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I was really curious about is obviously you're doing this awesome tour with Deep Purple and Judas Priest, two classic rock and metal legends, and being a band, I believe you guys started in 2006.
No, much later than that. Maybe like 2013.
Oh, I was close. But
12.
12. Okay. So being that you started a little bit later and playing with two classic rock legends, I was curious to how the reception was, like, especially with like some older fans. Did you get it all like the impress me bro attitude, like the new band?
A little bit. I mean, those fans are Temperance Movement fans, but they don't know it yet, right? So that's how I'm going out there, and they're sitting there, but they've never seen a Temperance Movement before. They're there to see Judas Priest, right? And they're just sat there like this. Who the fuck is this? I don't want to. Who's this guy? And so we just go out, you're gonna love us, you're gonna love our band, and we've been on that tour now for 2 weeks, and by the end of it now, because if you just go out there with that attitude, people will love you.
Yeah, obviously.
So they begin to sort of like it, and it was only in Canada that they were getting up out of their seats, but last night they were up out of their seats like this.
That's good. It's always great that when like an older band like takes out sort of like a newer band and stuff like that. Like I mean, maybe not the best analogy, but Metallica taking out like Avenged Sevenfold and Gojira and Volbeat rather than the same four thrash bands.
Yeah, it's a tough gig. It's a tough thing to do because they're there to see the other band. They're there to see Metallica. They're there to see Judas Priest. And for us, it's good to go out completely having to prove ourselves, really like back to square one kind of thing. It's really good for us.
Yeah, definitely, and it goes to show that the older fans because I listening to your music, it didn't surprise me. You guys were on the tour with Judas Priest and Deep Purple. You guys definitely have a sound that fans of those bands could appreciate, and it'll prove that sound is far from dead and far from over. And it's funny because a lot of younger rock fans, they would say that their first rock band was like Fozzy or Otherwise or Seether or Hailstorm. So it's fair to say that we kind of talked about it earlier, but you guys are very inspired by classic rock.
Yeah, like rock and roll and
Roots.
soulful music, basically. I think, like, personally, I'm not so into a lot of those bands that you mentioned because it's kind of too straight for me, and I like some sort of soul and like a blues element as well, and what I would call rock and roll as opposed to just rock.
Yeah. What defines rock and roll? Like, if you had to make the definition of rock and roll,
swagger.
Yeah, swagger and songs, and groove and musicianship, and fun. You know, and some sort of element of joy and entertainment as well.
Nothing to really overthink, right? It's not like a style of music where you have to like analyze and interpret. It's
Generally, it doesn't take itself too seriously.
Yeah.
And somewhere along the line, people started dressing up as ghosts and taking themselves very seriously.
Yeah. I think, I don't know. It's the heaviest I got was Soundgarden and that. You know, I listened to when I was younger and I was in high school. I listened to a little bit of Iron Maiden, but I didn't really go. I never got into Anthrax, and it was never heavy because it was too fast and I couldn't really sort of hear what was going on. I really just I loved it when rock came back in the 90s, with Nirvana, with Pearl Jam.
Yeah.
And there was elements of 70s rock and roll in there, and what they had, what was claimed there was, there was songwriting, it was pop songwriting that was heavy, but it was the grooves that were the slower grooves. Rock and roll, doesn't have to 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, it's really interesting because sometimes people like analyze a record too hard, and it's like it kind of defeats the whole purpose of just sitting back and listening to the music. I feel like the simplest explanation sometimes is the best.
Yeah. I mean, I think with us, like Phil said, it's kind of like songs are more important than everything else.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, it's not about, although everyone can play, it's not about technical musicianship. It's about songwriting and songs first and foremost. And I kind of feel like that actually connects us to a load of music that you wouldn't necessarily call rock and roll, but the songwriting process and format is coming from the same place. And I think that's maybe what divides us from some of the heavier and metal bands, where it's kind of like, look how fast I can play this guitar riff.
Yeah.
And then some poor singer's got to try and squeeze a song in there somehow.
Yeah. Well, I've had this discussion many times. Songwriting is a completely separate talent. Then you could play, Voodoo Child front to back is great, but doesn't mean you could write a good song. That almost seems like to be a separate skill.
Yeah, well it is.
Yeah. Now, kind of going back to what you said though, so it's fair to say, I feel like your music can appeal to multiple audiences, right? You don't have to, because we put labels on every style of music. It almost seems like you could play in front of a Deep Purple or Judas Priest crowd, but you could play with maybe a newer rock band like Hailstorm, for example.
Yeah.
I almost feel. Do you feel like your music can appeal to multiple audiences, right?
We could play country fairs and we could get all the country music fans as well. We would change our set, and we would get all those guys as well. It's Americana is a threads through our music. There's gospel, there's soul, there's R&B, there's heavy rock as well. But there's lots of places where we could get fans.
Definitely. And one final question I would like to ask, and I want to thank you guys so much for your time today. When you're playing these songs live, because you guys are very focused into the songwriting process, so when you're playing these songs live versus in the studio or a practice space or something like that, does your emotion or the vibe and how you play those songs change at all?
When we're in the rehearsal room?
When you're playing in rehearsal or in the studio versus playing live, how different of an experience is it?
Well, the thing is, when we don't rehearse, and when we play them in the studio, it's maybe the third or fourth or fifth time we've ever played the song.
Yeah.
So you can't compare them, because we then don't ever go back into a studio. And what happens really is your relationship changes with the song.
You don't really know the song at the time of recording it. You get to know it later when you're on the road, and you get all those feelings for it. But as Paul says, we're trying to catch it early before whatever the essence of it is dies.
Yeah, interesting. So when you're playing live in front of an audience and you see their reaction towards it, it may give you a completely different perspective on that song versus when you're writing it.
And night to night as well, because audiences will react differently to each song, and you might see one person, that's you can kind of tell what they're thinking at that moment, and that makes you feel differently about what you're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what live music is about, is that it's meant to change.
Yeah.
every night, you know.
Of course, it keeps it interesting, right? So each show is a completely different experience. So before we go, again, thank you guys for being here today. Just after this tour with the Judas Priest and Deep Purple, a deeper cut is out right now. You're doing an awesome show tonight at Mercury Lounge. What could be expecting from the Temperance Movement for the rest of 2018 and 2019?
We're going to write another record between October and the end of the year in January. Hopefully we're going to be recording early next year, maybe have a new record out for the second quarter.
Awesome.
And be back in America again, or maybe tour in Europe and come back to America.
Awesome. Wow, that quick, huh?
Yep. Yeah.
It's good.
I hope so.
Yeah.
That's the dream.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway.
Absolutely. Don't be like a band that takes like 10 years between them. But everybody, we are here with the Temperance Movement. Be sure to pick up their newest record, A Deeper Cut. It is absolutely awesome. We'll see you next time on Heavy New York, everybody.
Thanks.